and a very warm welcome to the Analyst dated 13 November 2025, brought to you by Vajiram and Ravi, wherein we'll be covering the 7 set of current affairs issues which are featured in today's newspaper. The handout of this very discussion is available in the comment section below for your future reference. Beginning with the analysis section, in the first topic, we'll try and understand the significant role played by the tribal communities when it comes to Indian society, what all challenges they are witnessing, what steps the government has taken in order to empower the tribal communities, and what more needs to be done in order to effectively realize the idea of empowering the tribals and transforming India. Moving on to the second topic, herein we'll try and understand that despite we have taken various measures, stubble burning is still a pertinent issue, impacting the air quality when it comes to the northern India. What needs to be done more, we'll try and understand. Moving on to the simplified section, herein we'll be covering the 5 set of current affairs issues in the most simple manner possible, and we'll also be doing value addition which would be relevant from your prelims perspective. So stay tuned. Now, beginning with the first topic, which is dealing with the tribal communities in India. This particular topic you can associate with GS paper 2, welfare schemes which are there for the vulnerable section of the Indian society. Why are we discussing tribal community today? Because recently the tribal business conclave was organized, and this business conclave was organized as a part of the Janjatiya Gaurav Varsh celebration, which we are doing to commemorate 150th birth anniversary of the tribal icon, that is Birsa Munda. And on this particular event, the Union Commerce and Industry Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, has announced that now we are going to reduce the GI tag application fee, which was previously 5,000. We are now going to reduce it to 1,000. And he has assured that the government would be providing all the requisite support when it comes to setting up export links, establishing international warehouses, and it would be providing all the necessary support to give a boost to the tribal entrepreneurs as well as the tribal products. Okay. Now, the first thing that we need to understand is who are the scheduled tribes. So, if you go by Constitutional Article 366, Clause 25, it states that STs are basically those tribal communities which are considered to be as the STs under Article 342 of the Indian Constitution. Okay. Now, let's go back to 342 of the Indian Constitution. So, this particular article, Clause 1, herein the President gets the power that in consultation with the Governor, he would be coming up with the list of the tribal communities. Okay. And Clause 2 of this particular article gives the Parliament the power that it can include or exclude any of the tribal communities from this particular list. Okay. So, whosoever would be, categorized as scheduled tribe under this Article 342 would be considered to be as scheduled tribes according to Article 366, Clause 25. Now, the second aspect that we need to look into is what significant role the tribal communities actually play when it comes to the Indian society. First and foremost, they are considered to be as the custodian of the Indian biodiversity. They are the guardians of the environment. We all know that tribals live in harmony with the nature. And this fact, gets verified if you look into the 2013 protest which was done by the Dongriya Kond tribe of the Odisha. Okay, because a bauxite mining project was scheduled to come up in the Niyamgiri hills. So they protested against this, and ultimately this project was not carried forward. Okay, because they considered this hill to be sacred. So they are known to live in harmony with the nature, and they are considered to be as the custodian of the Indian biodiversity as well as the environment. Then they have, strong cultural links also. We all are aware of the Varli painting which is done by the Varli tribes in, Maharashtra. You all must have read about this Varli painting in your art and culture section. Then we have the Gond painting which is done by the Gond tribe of Madhya Pradesh, and it has already received the GI tag. Then they are the preserver of traditional knowledge. The tribal community have vast set of traditional knowledge with respect to the herbal medicine, Ayurveda, and the ethnobotanical practices. And in order to preserve this traditional knowledge with respect to Ayurveda, what we are doing, we have set up a National Medicinal Plant Board, okay, which is, promoting R&D projects when it comes to ethnobotanical, practices which are prevalent among the tribal communities in India. And we also have put in place the tribal healthcare research program, wherein we are collecting this traditional knowledge which the tribals have since ages with respect to Ayurveda, with respect to herbal medicines. Then they follow sustainable agriculture practices. One of the prominent practice which have also been highlighted by the Food and Agriculture Organization, that is the wet rice cultivation being done by the Apatani tribe of Arunachal Pradesh. So what they do, they actually allow the nutrient rich water which is coming from the hills, okay, to irrigate their rice fields. And they are also known for recycling the crop residue, and they make use of organic waste which all the villagers collect, okay. So this sustainable agriculture practice has also been recognized by the FAO as well. Then they are playing a remarkable role when it comes to water conservation also. So one famous practice which is there among the hill tribes is halma. So what they are doing here is they are digging the counter trenches on the hill and pits for plantation. So let's suppose this is the hill, water is coming from here. So they would be digging this particular area, okay. They will be digging this particular area perpendicular to the flow of the water, okay. So the water get collected here and it would be recharging the soils. So this is the important role being played by the tribal communities. But despite their significant role when it comes to agriculture, when it comes to conservation of the environment, they are facing a lot of problems. First is with respect to land alienation and displacement. They are the victim of development induced displacement. Tribal areas, they are rich in minerals, and the private players wants to come and exploit those minerals, and ultimately these leads to displacement of the tribal community. And adequate rehabilitation of the tribal community is also not being ensured by the government in various cases. We have put in place the Forest Rights Act, which provide the tribals with the individual and community land rights, okay, to the traditional forest dwellers who have been living in that particular forest area since, long time. But what we are seeing is that this particular act is being poorly implemented. If you go by the reports, till 31st January 2025, what we have seen is the number of, land right claims that have been filed by the tribals, 1/3 of them is getting rejected. And the highest number of rejection rate is there in Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh. So there is ineffective implementation of this Forest Right Act, and they are also the victim of development induced displacement. Then we are witnessing very poor health indicators among the tribals. They are the one who are suffering from sickle cell anemia. Anemia is quite high among the tribal women according to the recent National Family Health Survey. And today itself, an article came up in The Hindu wherein the Bombay High Court has pulled up the state government of Maharashtra as well as the central government. Why? Because from June 2025 till date, today, we have witnessed that 65 infants who were in the age group of 0 to 6 years, they have died due to malnutrition in the Melghat district of Maharashtra. This points to the deplorable health indicators when it comes to the tribal communities. Then we are witnessing economic backwardness among the tribals. So if you go by the National Family Health Survey of 2019-21, merely 40% of the ST population is living below the poverty line. And if you compare it with the non-tribal population, only 20.5% of them are living below the poverty line. And this, is increasing. Why? Because of this development-induced displacement. Since they are known to live in harmony with the environment, okay, so when you displace them from their original land, their traditional livelihood gets destroyed, okay, and that, brings them below the poverty line. Then we are witnessing educational deprivation also. The dropout rates among the tribal, students is quite high. This is because they are not able to understand the Hindi language properly or the English means of communication, okay. So what we are witnessing because of this, if you go by the 2011 census, the literacy rate is merely 59%, and if you compare it with the national average, it is 72% approximately. Then another problem is the atrocities committed by the other communities over the STs. You can look at this particular graph. This red one is pointing towards the crime against the STs in India. And you can see that how it has increased over a period of time. It is merely because of the prejudices that we hold against the tribal population. We don't understand that they are the one who are playing a very important role when it comes to environment conservation, in terms of preserving the rich cultural heritage. Okay. Then we are witnessing linguistic marginalization among the tribals. Because of this globalization, because of this urbanization, what we are witnessing is tribal languages are becoming endangered. What we have seen is, for example, Majhi language in Sikkim, okay, we have very less people who are actually communicating in this particular language, and it is on account of globalization and urbanization. Because of this globalization and urbanization, we are more, switching towards using English as a means of communication or using Hindi as a means of communication, and that is the reason when it comes to the rich tribal language, that is becoming more and more endangered, because very few people are actually communicating in that particular language. Now, having understood the problems being faced by the tribals, let's understand that, keeping in mind what all challenges the tribal community is facing, what steps the government has taken to empower the tribal communities in India. First and foremost, to address the educational backwardness, the government came up with the Eklavya Model Residential School, wherein we are providing quality education to students who would be standing from class 6 to class 12, and we are trying to make these schools equivalent to Navodaya schools. Okay, so quality education is being tried to be provided under this particular schools. Then for economic empowerment, what the government has done, so the government is providing grants to the state under Article 275 Clause 1, and as you can see, this I have taken from PIB, that in past 9 years, what we have seen is the budget outlay when it comes to the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, it has increased 3 times. Then we have come up with the Pradhan Mantri Janjatiya Vikas Mission, under which we are doing value addition, okay, when it comes to the minor forest produce, okay, like timber produce, the tendua leaves, etc. Okay, tendu leaves, etc. So we are doing value addition, herein we have collaborated with the SHGs, and through this value addition, we are trying to provide a sustainable livelihood to the tribal population. Then when it comes to marketing support for these, value added products being created by the SHGs, okay, from the tribal communities, we have created TriFit, which is going to provide the marketing support in this respect. Then for improving the health indicators, what all things the government is doing? So the government is focusing on eradication of sickle cell disease. So what is the sickle cell disease? Herein, your red blood cells assume a crescent shape like this, okay. Normally, the red blood cells have this shape. And when they assume this crescent shape, what happens? The flow of blood in your body, okay, circulation of the blood in your body becomes difficult. This can lead to various repercussions like organ failure, etc. Then under Mission Indradhanush, the government is providing vaccination, okay, to the children as well as to the pregnant women against various diseases. Then we have come up with the Tribal Health and Nutritional Portal, that is SWAS, wherein we are doing real-time monitoring of tribal health indicators, so that we can move in the direction of evidence-based policy making with respect to improving the health indicators with respect to tribals. Then we have already discussed about the Forest Rights Act 2006, that how we are trying to provide the individual as well as community land rights to the tribal population who have been living in that particular forest area since long. And government was aware of this thing, that this act has not been effectively implemented. So what the government did, central government did last year, it came up with FRA cells, okay, in 18 states and UTs, which would ensure effective implementation of the Forest Rights Act, ensuring effective implementation by providing awareness to the tribal community with respect to FRA Act. Then we have come up with the PM Janjatiya Adivasi Nyay Mahabhiyan, wherein we are specifically targeting the PVTGs, particularly vulnerable tribal groups. And we are ensuring that the crucial services like electricity, health, education, water, okay, is adequately being provided to the PVTGs. Now, having understood the problems, having understood the step taken, what more needs to be done in order to ensure that our tribal community is effectively empowered? So first and foremost, what we need to ensure is effective implementation of Forest Rights Act. For this, we need to expedite the land digitalization process, and we need to strengthen the Gram Sabhas so that they can ensure effective implementation of the Forest Rights Act. And when it comes to the development projects, we need to ensure that the Gram Sabha have an adequate say when it comes to, deciding that whether that developmental project should come in that particular region or not. And if from economic point of view, it is very necessary that that development project should be put in place, then we should ensure that the tribal communities are provided with the necessary vocational training so that they can, be a worker in that particular enterprise, okay, which is coming up in their region. Then we need to ensure that the education is being provided to the tribal community in their respective tribal languages. Because researchers have proved that you are able to understand better when you're taught in your own original mother tongue. Okay? And that needs to be ensured. We should also provide the vocational training to the tribals so that they can be effectively employed in the industry 4.0. So we need to provide them new skill set as well. Okay, keeping in mind the AI revolution as well. Then we need to promote sustainable livelihoods. So we can promote the tribal entrepreneurship. We are already doing it with respect to the minor forest produce. We need to promote ecotourism here. We need to, promote sustainable agriculture practices, when we need to train them in that regard. And adequate marketing support should also be provided for tribal arts as well. Okay, we are organizing the tribal arts, but that should be done on a large scale, so that people become more and more aware about the rich tribal culture. That would go a long way in addressing the prejudices which the non-tribal population have with respect to tribal population. That would generate respect among the non-tribal population with respect to the tribal population. That would go a long way in reducing the hate crime against them. Then we need to foster inclusive healthcare system, so we can put in place mobile healthcare units. We need to specifically understand that what all health challenges the tribals are facing, okay, and accordingly the government should take the proactive measure, keeping in mind the local health related situation that is there. Okay, if a particular tribal region we are witnessing more cases of sickle cell disease, we need to focus on that. If we are witnessing more death because of the malnutrition, the government should come up with the providing fortified foods, effective implementation of the PDS Act, etc. And we should also, take telemedicine to the tribal areas as well. Then, in order to preserve the rich cultural heritage, okay, which the tribals have, we need to set up institutions which would be given this particular task, that you have to preserve the tribal arts, languages and the tradition. For this, we need to create more and more, exhibitions wherein we can display the tribal art, so that it generates respect among the non-tribal population with respect to the tribal population. And so that the tribal languages are not lost because of the globalization. For this, the government should come up with the translation related, schemes also, wherein we can translate the, important books or whatever learning material is there in distinct tribal languages. That would go a long way in preserving the tribal languages. That's all that we need to know with regard to this particular topic. On this particular topic, UPSC has asked a question in 2025 itself. So do practice this, and also do practice this particular question which I have created for you. With this, let's move on to the next topic. Now, recently, what the petitioners have pointed out in front of the Supreme Court, that despite we have put in place the satellite surveillance to tackle the issue of stubble burning, but what we are witnessing is farmers are evading the satellite surveillance because they know that when the satellite is above them, and they are continuing to burn the crop stubble, which is leading to deterioration of the air quality, especially in the Delhi NCR region. That is the reason the Supreme Court has decided that we would be looking into this particular matter. This particular topic we can associate with GS paper 3, environment and climate change. Now, first thing that we need to understand is what is stubble first of all. So, stubble is the crop residue which is left. For example, if I harvest the paddy, okay, the rice, whatever crop residue is left, that is stubble. So, when I burn that stubble, that is what is referred to be as stubble burning. Why generally the farmers do this? Because they have a short period, okay, when it comes to paddy harvesting and when it comes to sowing the wheat, okay. And this is the reason we witness high instances of stubble burning from the end of September till beginning of November. Now, let's understand the reasons for the same. First and foremost is the shortened harvesting window that the farmers are witnessing. It is also because of the policy which the Punjab and Haryana came up with, that is the Subsoil Water Conservation Act. So, according to this act, the farmers are allowed to sow the paddy only when the monsoon is about to come. Okay, so it delayed the paddy sowing until mid-June. That was being done to conserve the water, because we know the groundwater level is going down when it comes to Punjab and Haryana. So, this policy was a step in the right direction, but it has created negative implications. So, what is happening when the sowing period of paddy is going further? So, when the farmers have to harvest the paddy and the time period that they have between harvesting the paddy and sowing the wheat crop, that is very less. So, they are merely left with a window of 15 to maybe 25 days within which they have to harvest the paddy crop also and they have to sow the wheat crop also. So, because of this shorter window, the safest option is, cost effective option for the farmers is stubble burning. Then, if let's suppose the farmers go for manual, removal of the paddy stubble. So, they have a very shorter window. So, the labor cost increases manifold, which would be costing around roughly 4,000 per acre for the farmers if they do manual collection of the paddy residue. Since the farmers cannot bear this much amount of cost, as we all know that the farmers are not able to get, they are not able to realize the adequate prices for the farm produce. They cannot bear this much amount of cost, and ultimately for them the cost effective method is stubble burning. Then another issue is mechanization of agriculture. So, what is happening because of the mechanization? When they harvest the paddy crop, 1 or 2 feet of the stubble is left, and manual removal of the stubble is not possible. Again, the shortcut method is burn the stubble. Then, according to the study which was carried out by IIM Amritsar in 2025, what we found out is, one of the crucial reasons for this is the minimum support price policy, which is promoting monoculture practices. That is, because of this, the farmers are basically growing paddy and wheat crops. They are not moving towards less water intensive crops, okay, like pulses, millets, etc. And what we have found out based on an RBI survey which was carried out in May to July 2024, the farmers are able to realize nearly 40 to 67% of the consumer prices. Basically, what prices you are paying to get a agriculture product, okay, merely 40 to 67% of that is going in the hands of the farmers. Rest is taken up by the middlemen. So, we know that the MSP price which is being provided by the government, and you as a consumer, whatever you are paying in the market, that is not enough to cover the increasing cost of cultivation. So, when the farmers are not able to meet the increasing cost of cultivation, okay, they are not able to realize better returns for their agriculture product, they are not going to bear the cost for manual removal of the paddy stubble. Again, the shortcut method is stubble burning. Then we have come up with alternatives, like we have come up with the Pusa biodecomposer, wherein we have microbial solution which would be converting this stubble into the compost, okay, which could be used for improving the soil fertility also. But there are problems with the alternatives as well. For example, if you talk about this Pusa biodecomposer, it would be taking 30 days, and right now we discussed that we have a very shorter window. Okay, we merely have 15 to 25 days between which the farmers have to harvest the paddy crop and they have to sow the wheat crop. Then another problem is they have to bear additional cost of labor, okay, for spraying it. So that is the reason the farmers point out that this is not at all practical for us. and adequate training has not been provided to them. Additional challenge is with respect to small and marginal farmers. Okay, we have 86% of the farmers which are small and marginal, which have the land holding less than 2 hectares. So for them, it is not possible that they, use the advanced technologies like happy seeder. So what happy seeder is going to do? It would be mounted on the tractor itself. It would be harvesting the paddy crop, and alternatively, it would be sowing the wheat crop as well. But this paddy seeder is quite costly, which cannot be afforded by the small and marginal farmers. So we have issues with the other viable alternatives which the government has come up with over a period of time. Then another problem is the climate stress. If the rainfall is going to continue for long, the farmers are not going to harvest the paddy crop. And that's what happened way back in 2022. When we witnessed that, rains continued for long, and that led to delay in the harvesting of paddy crop. And this is the reason expert pointed out that this would lead to increase in stubble burning, and that actually happened also. Now, why are we focusing upon stubble burning? Why it is a very crucial issue that we need to look into? First and foremost, this leads to release of harmful greenhouse gases like the sulfur dioxide, particulate matter, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, etc., which is, enough to create the threat of lung-related diseases like asthma, etc. Then it is one of the major cause of the deteriorating air quality when it comes to the Delhi NCR region. This is not something which I am telling. This is something which the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology has said. That if you go by the data point, okay, currently the deteriorated air quality index that you're witnessing in the Delhi NCR region, the major cause is stubble burning. Rest of the causes you can see, it is less. Okay, less contributory to deteriorating air quality in the Delhi NCR region. Then it also deteriorates the soil health. Because of the stubble burning, what happened? The soil loses the important nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and it also destroys the beneficial microorganism. It leads to loss of soil organic matter. So this is going to add to another problem. When the soil fertility is going down, ultimately to increase the crop yield, the farmers would be relying more on chemical fertilizer. Okay, so that is again going to lead to soil degradation and water contamination as well. So this is the reason we need to look into this. Now, what all steps the government has taken to address this particular problem? So if you look into the Commission for Air Quality Management, which actually take all the measures to ensure that the air quality index in the Delhi NCR region is, is fine. It has taken various steps. So it has come up with the in situ crop residue management, that is whatever technique we are adopting to reduce the stubble burning within the agriculture field. So what the Commission for Air Quality Management is doing in this regard with respect to in situ crop residue management, so it is coming up with high yielding and short duration paddy varieties so that the window which the farmers are left with could be increased. It is promoting extensive use of biodecomposer, okay, so that we can convert the stubble into compost, which could be used to enhance the soil fertility. And it is promoting the hiring of happy seeders through the custom hiring centers, wherein the farmers can come and they can hire this particular happy seeder. This would reduce their cost of getting this particular happy seeder directly from the market. Then ex situ crop residue management, which we are doing outside the agriculture field. For this, what we are doing, we are promoting alternative uses of paddy straw. It could be used in, as biopellets to power the thermal power plants. It could be used as a feedstock for promoting, second generation ethanol. It could be used as a feedstock for the livestock as well. Okay, so ex situ is whatever steps we are taking outside the agriculture field. In situ is whatever steps this particular entity is taking to reduce the stubble burning within the agriculture field. Then we have increased the surveillance through satellites, but right now we, got to know that since the farmers know that when the satellite is above them, they are waiting for the satellite to go away and then they are engaging into stubble burning. That is what the court is going to look into, that is this the case or not. Then we have taken various technological measures. We have come up with the Pusa biodecomposer, which is going to convert the stubble into compost. Then we are promoting bio pellets, okay, which could be used to provide energy to thermal power plants. Happy seeder machine is there, etc. Then we are providing financial assistance. Right now we studied that how it is problematic for the small and marginal farmers to get these machines like happy seeder on their own from the market, okay, because it is very costly. So in order to promote this technological solutions like happy seeder, the government has come up with some mission on agriculture mechanization, wherein we would be providing subsidies for crop residue management machinery procurement to small and marginal farmers. So basically, in simple words, we will be providing this happy seeder at a very affordable rate to the small and marginal farmers. They don't have to buy it, they can hire it, okay. Then we have various good state level initiatives also. For example, Chhattisgarh has Guathans, wherein this is an agriculture field wherein the entire village would be collecting the stubble at one place, and then they will be converting that stubble into manure, okay, or compost by using cow dung and other natural enzymes. In Uttar Pradesh, we have Parali ke badle Govansh Khand. Basically, in return of the stubble, the government is providing you cow dung. Okay, so these are the various state level initiatives. Having understood this, what more needs to be done so that we can effectively address this pertinent problem of stubble burning? So in this respect, a parliamentary committee has suggested that we should provide the MSP for paddy residue as well. And this MSP for paddy residue should be announced way ahead of the Kharif season. And in addition to this, what we need to do is, we need to do real-time crop monitoring in order to understand that how much paddy residue we would be expecting and how much is going to waste in form of stubble burning. Then we need to set up district level stubble collection. You need to understand why we are talking about setting in place district level stubble collection centers, because the larger the distance the farmer has to cover, okay, to provide its stubble, there is high chances that he would be ending up burning the stubble. So we need to reduce that distance. For that, we need to come up with district level stubble collection centers. And we need to provide incentive for short duration paddy varieties. So the farmers have wider window, okay, within which they have to harvest the paddy crop and they have to sow the wheat crop. Then we need to create an adequate market for the stubble based products, like for example biopellets, okay, we can use it as a fodder, so we need to create that adequate market for that. And for that, you need to focus first on collection. In order to create the market, you first need to collect it efficiently. For that, what we can do, we can make use of farmers producer organization. That would be playing a remarkable role when it comes to collection. And when you have the stubble in a greater quantity, only then we will be able to develop the further value chains. Then we need to link the stubble value chain with the Manrega. So initially we discussed that if the farmers go for manual removal of the paddy stubble, they have to incur a cost of 4,000 per acre, and this is not affordable, okay, because the cultivation, the agriculture cost is increasing day by day, but the farmers are not able to realize better income for their agriculture products, so they are not ready to bear this cost. So what the government can do? So the government can make the Manrega workers do this manual harvesting, okay, removal of the crop residue of paddy. So this particular thing could be funded by the Manrega program. Then we need to provide demand-driven mechanization. For this, we need to put in place custom hiring centers. So a particular farmer do not have to buy that happy seeder machine or Pusa biodecomposers, okay, so it can hire these machines, basically happy seeder. For this, we can put in place booking apps, and GPS enabled fleet tracking should also be done, so that it should not happen that the government has provided you happy seeder and you are not giving that thing back to the government, okay. So that is the reason we need to put in place GIS enabled fleet tracking as well. So we need to provide this happy seeder machines and the technological advancements that we have done to deal with stubble burning. This should be provided at a subsidized rental cost. Then we need to promote sustainable crop. Okay, we need to promote crop diversification, because one of the reasons we discussed as the study carried out by IIM Amritsar is the MSP. So MSP is incentivizing the farmers to move in the direction of monoculture cropping practices. That is, just go wheat and paddy. So we need to incentivize them that they also cultivate less water intensive crops like millets, maize and pulses. Then at the end, we need to understand that this problem is not just associated with one particular ministry. All the ministries need to come together, like for example, Environment Ministry, Agriculture Ministry, okay, Water Ministry, etc. The coordinated approach should be there. All the ministries should work in tandem. And we need to understand that we cannot go with one size fits all approach. So we need to understand the local situation, and accordingly we need to come up with a proactive plan that how do we deal with it. Okay, that's all that we need to understand with respect to this particular topic. I have framed a practice question for you people. So do practice this and let us know your answers in the comment section. With this, let's move on to the simplified section. Now, recently an editorial has appeared in The Hindu, which is talking about the significance of competitive federalism. Okay, this particular topic you can associate with GS paper 2 federalism topic. Now, in the context, the writer has pointed out that how the different southern states, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, they were competing to actually get this Google AI data center. Okay, because Google was planning that it want to set up its largest AI data center outside California. Okay, and ultimately Andhra Pradesh got this opportunity. So this largest Google AI data center is going to come up in Andhra Pradesh. This is talking in respect of competitive federalism. Why? Because different states are competing to get the investment opportunity. Now, competitive federalism is healthy. Okay, why? Because the states are competing amongst each other. They are not merely dependent upon the center for the funds. They are competing based on their own strength to attract the investments. Now, let's just look into that what significance the writer has pointed out. So, firstly, the writer has pointed out that because of this competitive federalism, the competition which is going on among the states, what we are witnessing is a paradigm shift from permission-based economy to a persuasion-based economy. So, when we got independence, at that time states were majorly dependent upon the center to get the funds, because everything was decided at the central level. But post LPG, what we are seeing is now the states are competing based on their own strengths to attract the foreign investment. And this is something that we witness with respect to this Google AI data center. Okay. Then it is driving innovation, efficiency and reforms. See, the foreign investors would be ready to come and invest in your state only when they know that the ease of doing business is better. Okay. Giving the permission, okay, when it comes to doing a business does not take long time when it comes to a particular state. So, since the states are competing among each other, they want to attract this foreign investor. So, what they are doing, they are improving their ease of doing business, okay. They are doing startup promotion, they are making themselves export ready, and in this respect the central government is doing a remarkable job. Okay, it is coming up with various rankings with respect to ease of doing business, export readiness, okay, although it is being done by Niti Aayog, but here the central government do have a role to play. So this is driving innovation, efficiency and governance related reforms as well. Ultimately this would be improving the service delivery, okay, public service delivery. Then previously what we used to assume that the regional diversity that we have among the states is actually a challenge. But because of this competitive federalism, our perspective with respect to regional diversity have taken a 360-degree turn. Now we see regional diversity as an opportunity, which is going to make India a federation of opportunity. Because the different states have their own strengths and they are competing based on their own strengths. Like for example, Andhra Pradesh is improving its ease of doing business. Punjab has the entrepreneurial skills. Tamil Nadu has skilled workforce. Gujarat has better infrastructure like the gift city. Uttarakhand has a wide mineral base. And UP has a vast untapped potential. So all the states are competing on their own strength to attract the foreign investments and the domestic investments as well. Then it is promoting dynamic cross-state learning. If one state is performing better and if the other state want to attract the investment, it also needs to perform better. So what is happening? Cross-state learning. So best practices are getting diffused. Okay, they are getting diffused among different states. Then it is deepening India's industrial fabric. Now, if you are aware of China +1 formula, fine. If you are not aware, I'll explain it in a simple manner. China initially, was commanding the manufacturing base. Why? Because of its lower labor cost. But over a period of time, the labor cost has increased manifold when it comes to China. And China is known for its trade rivalry with the US, okay, weaponization of trade. So because of these particular thing, the MNCs are looking for another country where they can set up their manufacturing base. And India can effectively, utilize this particular opportunity. And this is only possible because of this competitive federalism. Because the states, okay, which are performing better, they would act as a magnet for the capitals as well as idea. And they would enable us to exploit this opportunity of China +1 strategy being adopted by the multinationals. But the writer has also pointed out that this competitive federalism do have, good implications, but there are also concerns with respect to the same. The writer is concerned that because of this competitive federalism, we might witness a race to bottom. What is this race to bottom? Now, competitive federalism, we understood that the states are competing among each other to attract the investment. So, for attracting the investment, what they are doing? They are providing reckless subsidies. They are reducing the subsidies at such a rate that it might impact their fiscal stability. And they are providing, land like that. Okay, so indiscriminate land giveaways is also there, which again is going to have a considerable impact on the fiscal stability of that concerned state. Another concern that we have, which has not been highlighted by the writer, but we have, is resource disparities among the states. If we allow the states to compete among each other, then obviously the states which are richer, okay, which have a wider tax base, they'll be able to perform better. And this would widen the regional diversity that we have. This is problematic. The backward state would remain backward and the better performing state would continue to grow. So this would widen the regional diversity. So what needs to be done in this particular backdrop? First and foremost, the writer suggests that the state should not compete based on reckless subsidies or indiscriminate land giveaways. They should actually compete based on their competence and credibility. So play on your strength, okay? And not based on this, reckless subsidies. Because ultimately, if you play based on the concessions, this would be impacting the fiscal stability of that concerned state. Then the state should learn the best practices, okay? This would help us in reducing the interstate disparity which is there. And the central government should come and it should provide a hand-holding support, especially to the economically backward states, so that they could also grow. In the end, I would point out that if we want to make best use of competitive federalism, we also need cooperative federalism, okay? Wherein the states who can compete, fine. The states who are not able to compete, better. The central government should come and provide a hand-holding support to them. Now, for your prelims, you need to understand that what all reports, indexes the Niti Aayog is coming up to promote competitive federalism. As I told you, the Niti Aayog is coming up with various rankings. Like it is coming up with the School Education Quality Index, State Health Index, Composite Water Management Index, SDG Index, India Innovation Index, Export Competitiveness Index. Okay, and it is also coming up with the Delta ranking when it comes to performance of aspirational districts every month. So all these steps taken by Niti Aayog is playing a remarkable role when it comes to improving the competitive federalism. Okay, so these social indicators are basically based on quantitative objective criteria which encourages the states to compete among each other. That's all that we need to know with regard to this particular topic. Let's move on to the next one. Now recently we got to know that the retail inflation has fallen to 0.25%. This particular topic you can associate with the economy section of our prelim syllabus. Now, the experts are pointing out that this could be possibly because of certain factors. First factor is it has been 1 month since we have reduced the GST tax rates. Earlier we had 4 tax slabs, now we have reduced it to 2 and 1 slab for demerit goods. And primarily the experts have pointed out that it is because of the favorable base effect. What is this base effect? Let's understand this with the help of example. Let's suppose this is year 1, this is year 2. Okay. Initially in situation 1, what is happening? Here the price was 50. In year 2, the price rose to 100. So here the inflation rate you will get, that would be equal to 100 minus 50 divided by the initial price, that is 50 into 100. So if you calculate, you will get it that inflation has increased by 100%. Let's take the another situation. Okay, that is situation number 2. In situation number 2, what is happening? The price, I am assuming that it was 200 and in year 2, it increased to 250. Now in situation 1, here also the absolute increase in price was 50 rupees only. Here also the absolute increase in price is 50 rupees only. But let's look into the inflation here. So it would be 50 divided by 200 into 100. If you calculate it, it would come out to be 25%. Here it was 100%. So what do we get to understand based on this particular example that I discussed? That if I have a higher price in the base year, even when the increase in price would be same in situation 1 and situation 2, then also the inflation rate you will be getting less. But in case where you have a lower price in the base year, okay, in that case you will be getting a higher inflation rate, and that is what has happened in the current scenario. So to calculate the headline inflation for October 2025, we looked into that what was the price level in October 2024. As you can see here the prices were quite high. So even when there would be an absolute increase in the price, because of this favorable base effect, you will be getting a low inflation rate. Okay, this is the probable reason which the experts have pointed out. Okay, and another reason which the experts have pointed out is the decline in food inflation. Okay, food inflation, here you can see it has been labeled by the blue line. So here also food inflation was quite high, even though we would have witnessed increase in food prices, but because of the favorable base effect, again you are getting lower food inflation as well. Now, keeping this thing in mind that retail inflation has fallen to 0.25%, the experts are pointing out that now the Monetary Policy Committee, which has kept the repo rate at 5.5%, okay, it might reduce it in the upcoming meeting, which would be there in the December 3rd to December 5th. Now, what we need to understand is that what is the monetary policy framework in India? Initially, everything was decided by the RBI, but now we have a flexible inflation targeting mechanism in India. So we did the amendment in the RBI Act of 1934 based on the recommendation of Urjit Patel Committee way back in May 2016, and we now put in place a flexible inflation targeting framework in place. And when it comes to the bandwidth within which the inflation has to be maintained by the Monetary Policy Committee, that bandwidth we are deciding based on the Consumer Price Index, and this would be for 5 years, and this is to be decided by the central government in consultation with the RBI. Just remember this fact, it is not alone the RBI which is going to decide this inflation bandwidth, and here we are using CPI, not WPI. Now, when it comes to Monetary Policy Committee, it has equal representation from RBI, 3 members from RBI and 3 are appointed by the government. Members from RBI Governor, who will be the chairman of this particular committee. You have the Deputy Governor of RBI and 1 officer of RBI. Decision here is taken by the majority, and in case of a tie, Governor get a casting vote, okay, to break that tie. And in order to carry out a meeting, you need minimum 4 members. So quorum is of 4 members. And according to the Act, they are supposed to meet at least 4 times in a year, but they can meet more than 4 times. Okay, it is up to the Monetary Policy Committee. And the major function is basically to decide the repo rate. Now let's just quickly look into the monetary policy stances. So here we have looked at that previously the monetary policy has went with a neutral stance. That is the reason I'm discussing the monetary policy stances. First is the accommodative stance. Accommodative stance means that the MPC is going to support growth. And how do I support growth? How can I increase the GDP? For that, the consumption demand needs to increase. And when you will be demanding more goods, when you get the credit at a lower rate, then only you would be applying for home loan, car loans, etc. And for that, what needs to be done? The MPC needs to reduce the interest rate. When the interest rate would go down, only then people would demand more and more credit, like home loan, car loans, etc. So here, interest rate hike is absolutely ruled out because MPC is going to promote the growth. Neutral stance, as the name itself suggests, that in Hindi there is a kahawat that bependi ka lota. So that is what MPC is going to do when it comes to neutral stance. It can either increase or it can either reduce the interest rate. Okay, it is neutral. And when it comes to hawkish stance, it is exactly opposite of the accommodative stance. So an accommodative stance, what the MPC was doing, it was going to support growth. And here the topmost priority of the Monetary Policy Committee is to keep the inflation low. Okay, one more thing I forgot to tell you, that what is the current bandwidth of inflation? Okay, that is 2% to 6%. This is the bandwidth within which the MPC has to maintain the inflation. Now, if inflation is close to the 6%, then obviously the MPC would be following a hawkish stance. The top priority would become keeping inflation in control. So, if you want to bring inflation in control, what do I need to do? You need to understand this, that why we witness inflation. We witness inflation when aggregate demand is way more higher than the aggregate supply. So you are demanding more and more home loans, you are demanding more and more cars. Okay, for that you are going to the bank and getting the credit. So in order to reduce or bring this aggregate demand in control, what the RBI would be doing? It would be increasing the interest rate. When it would increase the interest rate, you would not be ready to get the loans for buying iPhones, for getting home, for getting cars, etc. Okay, so that is what is hawkish stance. And when hawkish stance would be there, the people who are not mad behind getting iPhone, okay, they would not be selling their kidneys, they'll wait for the MPC to reduce the policy. Now, we have a PYQ on this particular topic, so do practice this question and let us know your answers in the comment section because we've already discussed this particular topic. With this, let's move on to the next topic. Now, recently, the cabinet has approved the export promotion mission. This particular topic you can associate with the economy section of our prelim syllabus. Now, currently, when it comes to the goods that we are exporting to US economy, they are facing a tariff rate of 50%, which is higher than what the Chinese goods are facing. Previously, China was also facing more US tariffs, but recently the two enter into a trade deal, wherein the US said that okay, we would be reducing the tariff when it comes to Chinese goods to 47%, and in return, China has to agree to allow the export of rare earth element, okay, because 90% of the processing of rare earth elements is controlled by China. It would not be weaponizing its trade when it comes to rare earth elements, and it would start buying US soybean. We all know Trump would not be giving anything free to you, okay, so he always is guided by the transactional approach. You give me something, I'll be giving you something in return. But when it comes to India, we are facing 50% US tariff. So in order to promote the Indian exports in the US, we are coming up with the export promotion scheme, which would be there for 6 years, and this is not a new scheme. We announced it in this year budget itself. And why we are coming up with this thing? Because we all know, because of this tariff, our exports, especially when it comes to engineering goods that we used to export to USA, that has dropped. And the similar situation is there when it comes to our exports in textile and apparel sector. Okay, USA is the single largest market when it comes to India textile goods, contributing to 28% of the total revenue of India's textile and apparel exports. So because of this 50% tariff that we are facing, our exports to US in this textile sector has come down to a great extent. Okay, so under this particular export promotion mission, the government would be prioritizing certain sectors, okay, which have been greatly impacted by this 50% Trump tariff, USA tariff. So that would be textile, leather, gems and jewelry, engineering goods, marine products, etc. So we would be focusing upon providing credit at affordable rate, and we would be providing necessary support to the MSMEs with respect to marketing, with respect to logistic, with respect to branding. Let's understand this particular mission in great detail. So 25,000 crore roughly has been allocated for this particular scheme, and this scheme was announced in this year budget itself. It would be there for a period of 6 years, and we are going to consolidate the earlier export promotion or export support schemes. Like we had the interest equalization scheme, wherein we were providing credit at an affordable rate to the exporters, and we had the market access initiative, okay, wherein we were following the focus product, focus country approach. So the government was helping in the branding, okay, marketing of the products. So we have clubbed these earlier scheme under this export promotion mission. Herein we would be witnessing collaboration among different departments, okay, like Department of Commerce. There would be collaboration with the Ministry of MSMEs, Ministry of Finance and other stakeholders as well, like financial institutions, banks, export promotion councils, commodity boards, industry associations, etc. So when it comes to this particular mission, it would be having two sub-schemes, okay. One is Niryat Protsahan, wherein we will be focusing upon providing affordable credit to the exporters, okay. So we would be coming up with interest subvention, export factoring, collateral, free loans would be provided, etc. Other element is Niryat Disha, providing a direction. So here we will be focusing upon non-financial enablers, basically helping them in branding, helping them in reaching out to other markets, okay, enabling the Indian exporters to participate in trade fairs, export warehousing support, logistics support, inland transport, reimbursements, okay, which can reduce their cost also. And we'll be focusing upon capacity building. So two components, one would be focusing upon providing affordable credit, another Niryat Disha would be providing support with respect to branding, with respect to packaging, with respect to getting access to other international markets. And which would be the implementing agency? So it is Directorate General of Foreign Trade. You need to let me know in the comment section that this particular entity works under which ministry. Now everything would be digitalized under this particular mission, okay, from application to dispersal. And what are the intended benefits? Obviously it would facilitate access to affordable credit, especially for the MSMEs, because we are focusing upon MSMEs. It would enhance the export readiness, because we will be also under this Niryat Disha, the government would also be helping the exporters that how they can enhance their quality of the product, how we can ensure compliance of our products with the compliance standards of other countries. Okay, so that support would be provided. It would improve our market access and visibility for Indian products. Again, this brings me to Niryat Disha, wherein we would enable our exporter to participate in trade fairs. Then it would boost export from non-traditional districts and sectors, and it would ultimately generate employment across manufacturing, logistics and allied services. That's all that we need to know with regard to this particular mission. Let's move on to the next one. Now, this year, Climate Risk Index has come up. This particular topic you can associate with the environment section of our prelim syllabus. So what is the performance of India when it comes to this Climate Risk Index, which is released by the German Watch, which is a non-governmental organization. India has attained 9th rank when it comes to the list of the countries which are worst affected by climate related disasters in the past 30 years. Okay, so we are talking about long-term impact of climate change when it comes to India. So if you are looking into the climate related disasters in India in the past 30 years, in that respect, we have attained 9th rank. If you talk about the 2023 edition of this particular report, okay, wherein we also do the ranking of the countries based on the disasters that they witnessed in the previous year. Okay, so in that respect, India's ranking was 10 in 2023, but currently it has improved to 15 now, okay, according to this particular article. It could be probably because of fewer number of disaster that is happening in India, or because of our improved resilience. Yesterday, if you have read the Hindu newspaper, it pointed out that how Andhra Pradesh responded effectively, okay, when it was struck by cyclone Montha. Okay, it had put in place adequate early warning system. It is going with real-time governance society, okay, effective coordination among the different wings of the administration, and that is the reason it has been able to reduce the casualty when it was struck by this particular cyclone. Now let's just understand few points with respect to this climate risk index. So it is released on an annual basis, and it basically ranks the countries based on the human and economic impact of extreme weather events. Firstly, it was published way back in 2006, and we all know that it has been released by German Watch, which is a NGO and an environmental think tank. What all data sources this particular NGO is using to come up with this particular index? So it uses International Disaster Database, that is EMDAT, and it is also using socio-economic data which it gets from IMF and World Bank. So it take into account 3 hazard categories. One is hydrological, which is related to flood, glacial, lake outburst, meteorological, that is storm, cyclones, and climatological, that is heat waves, wildfires. As I told you, it captures short-term impact, that how many disasters were there in the preceding years, okay, preceding this publication, and long-term impact, that how many disasters a country witnessed in the past 30 years. Then when it comes to the weightage of different indicators, number of death, this much weightage is provided. Number of deaths per 1 lakh inhabitants, 1/3 weightage is given. Sum of losses in US dollar in purchasing power parity, 1/6 weight. Losses per unit of GDP, 1/3 weight. The higher the rank, this indicates greater vulnerability to the extreme climatic events. Now, what are the key findings of this year? So globally, data has been provided from 1995 to 2024. More than 8 lakh lives have been lost globally because of the extreme climatic events. It has cost us economically roughly 4.5 trillion US dollars, and we have witnessed more than 9,700 extreme weather events globally we are talking. Topmost 3 affected countries are Dominica, Myanmar and Honduras. When it comes to continuous threat category, wherein the country has witnessed more number of extreme weather events in the past 30 years, in that we have India, Philippines, Nicaragua and Haiti. When it comes to India, what are the findings? So when it comes to extreme weather events, we have witnessed heat waves, floods, cyclones. For example, we witnessed cyclone Amphan, we witnessed cyclone Montha recently, okay. Then when it comes to the number of fatalities, it is roughly 80,000, which is approximately 9.6% of the global numbers, okay, of this 8 lakh lives which have been impacted by extreme climatic events. And it has cost again us economically. So the economic cost of this extreme weather event has been calculated to be around $170 billion. A number of people most affected by extreme weather in India in 2024, India has been ranked 3rd behind Bangladesh and Philippines. That's all that we need to know with regard to this particular topic. Let's move on to the last topic of today's Analyst. Now, to realize our goal of eradicating left-wing extremism by March 2026, the Standing Committee of National Board for Wildlife has given its approval for setting up Jungle Warfare College in the Pamed Wildlife Sanctuary, which is situated at the border of Chhattisgarh and Telangana. This particular topic we can associate with the environment section, basically the protected areas. Now, after the success that we got under the Operation Black Forest, okay, which was carried out near the Karegutta Hills, okay, which is near the border of Chhattisgarh and Telangana, which was an offensive, operation against the Maoist. The Standing Committee for National Board for Wildlife has given its approval that a Jungle Warfare College would be set up in this Pamed Wildlife Sanctuary, and a battalion campaigning site would also be set up. But the standing committee has pointed out that the security forces has to make sure that certain things are kept in mind. Although we have given the approval, but these conditions needs to be fulfilled. So the first condition is the State Forest Department and the security forces should constitute a joint monitoring mechanism to ensure that we are taking care of our internal security interest also, and we are at the same time preserving the biodiversity, okay, which is found in this wildlife sanctuary. Secondly, the standing committee has pointed out that the second condition is, when it comes to this jungle warfare college, there needs to be a biodiversity conservation module in the training course, which would enable the security forces to understand that how they can also contribute to, biodiversity conservation. And no non-operational movement of the security forces would be allowed in this protected areas. And thirdly, the standing committee has stated that for effective conservation of wild water buffaloes, okay, we need to come up with a long-term relocation and rewilding program. So these are the conditions which has been put in place by the standing committee of National Board for Wildlife, okay, although it has given the approval to set up a jungle warfare college in this particular protected area. Now, first thing that we'll be looking into is the prelim facts with regard to Operation Black Forest. So this is India's largest anti-Naxal operation, which was carried out in Karegutta Hills, okay. I think there's a spelling error. The spelling would be this, okay, Karegutta Hills, which is situated at the border of Chhattisgarh and Telangana. This operation began in April 2025 and it carried out for 21 days. It was a joint operation which was carried out by CRPF, Chhattisgarh Police, District Reserve Guard, Commando Battalion for Resolute Action. So it was a combined effort and it was being done to attain the bigger goal, that is, the central government has clearly stated that we want to eliminate left-wing extremism from India by March 2026. Okay, that is the reason the government gave the approval for this Operation Black Forest. What were the outcomes? So this was a very successful program wherein we disrupted the Maoist supply chain when it comes to the Karegutta Hills. Then we neutralized 27 Maoists and we killed one of the major Maoist leader, that is Basavu Raju, who was the General Secretary of CPI Maoist. He was among the topmost leader and the backbone of Naxal movement. And the first time in 3 decades of India's battle against Naxalism, a General Secretary ranked, that is Basava Raju, has been neutralized by our forces. That is the reason this particular operation, which was against Naxals, is considered to be a successful one. Now let's note down certain prelim points with regard to this Pamed Wildlife Sanctuary, which is situated in Chhattisgarh but close to the border that it shares with Telangana. It was set up way back in 1983 and it was basically created for the effective conservation of wild buffaloes. It has a mixed forest and it has abundance of sal and teak trees. This is the fauna which is found. Let's note down certain pointers with regard to wild buffaloes also. So it is the state animal of Chhattisgarh and it is mainly found in alluvial grassland, marshes, swamps, basically wherever you will find, green vegetation and the water. Currently, it is found in the northeastern region as well as in Chhattisgarh. Majorly, it is found here in the northeast India and some of the population is found in Chhattisgarh. What is its IUCN status? So that is endangered, and when it comes to Wildlife Protection Act, it has been accorded the highest, conservation status, that is, it is included in Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. That's all that we need to know in today's Analyst. Quiz would be coming right up next. So don't forget to practice the quiz and check your knowledge, that how far you have been able to grasp from this discussion. Till then, keep smiling, keep learning. Have a great day, all of you.